Welcome to our April market update. Please, if you are getting a lot out of these videos, subscribe to our channel, like this video, comment below something, ask a question, share this with a friend. We would really appreciate it. Let's dive into what we're going to talk about this month. I'm here with Lee Abraham, 30-plus year real estate veteran, and I realized I never introduced myself, so David Shapiro. I've been investing in real estate since I was 20 years old when I bought my first rental property. I've accumulated properties here in Austin over the last decade, and I've now been helping people as a realtor buy and sell. I've done hundreds of transactions here in Austin doing that. Also a developer, which I started probably around 2012, 2013. And currently we've got 3 projects that have 16 total single-family homes that we're developing, and a 60 micro unit project that we're going to talk about here a little bit. Before we dive into the market update, I want to do a little note to buyers out there, because this is a really challenging market for buyers, and if you have been looking, you are probably a bit frustrated. There's a lot of emotions involved. It can be a roller coaster at times. There's some ups, some excitement. You found a property you really love, and then some disappointment if you didn't win it in a multiple offer situation. And so we know that's really challenging, and I think we're going to have a little bit of relief coming up here.
Yes.
With new listings coming on the market in the spring. There's a psychological thing going on there. We've got interest rates going up, which you might feel is a bad thing, but I actually think that could be a good thing for buyers that are still very persistent and want to make a move, because it might force other buyers out of the picture and give you a little bit less competition.
Yes. I just think that every buyer is coming from their own unique perspective, their own life experience and life cycle events that motivate them to buy a home. And depending on how much urgency, and there's just so many different variables that people go through, we try to proactively prepare people for the hurdle that inevitably will happen in their transaction. It's not just numbers, it's not just math, it's people's lives. We take that very seriously.
You know, one interaction I have quite a bit is people say, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, you're in real estate? Oh, this must be amazing for you."
Right.
And my response is, you know what would be amazing? If there was enough homes that every buyer who wanted one could just go out and pick one out. And do it, you know, nice and casually, and not the whole rushed experience that it is right now. So that would be amazing. And I hope we get there at some point. We're not going to get there anytime soon, but maybe some relief. And we'll talk about that.
Things are looking up for the home buyer.
Yeah. After our market update, we're going to go over some new infrastructure and employment news, talk about 3 new towers that are going up, our 6 in Chicon project. We got our appraisal district property valuation notices coming. I mean, we'll just mention this now, is that look out for those this month. And when you get those, we're going to be sending some more information about what you might want to do if you're going to protest your property value.
The key being that values have gone up so much that it's be a lively debate for every homeowner on what the valuation should be and what the taxes should be based on that.
Mm-hmm. And then a lot of talk about interest rates going up, recession concerns, so we'll touch a little bit on our thoughts there. All right, so let's dive into the stats.
Well, the interesting thing with the market, obviously, is the availability of properties to purchase. We know there's tons of demand. As of this morning, there were 541 active listings in Austin. These are single-family homes in Austin proper, so it's a very clearly defined segment of the market. When we started a month ago, when we went back to last month and we're doing this recording, there were 370 active listings. 370, 541, still a relatively small number, but that's a 46% jump in the number of listings coming to the market. The amazing thing is that yesterday there were 143 new listings. So when we talk about seasonality, this is the single clearest indicator of exactly that. People targeting, hey, we're going to go live on April 1st. And so the bottom line is that the monthly inventory, we've been looking at various absorption rates, 12 months, 3 months, 1 month. Been hovering over the past year at about 1,000 sales a month. The past month of March, we had 852 sales. So if you have 541 active listings and 852 sales, you have less than a month's inventory. You can see the numbers on the screen have gone up as compared to last month, where everything was right at about half a month. Now it's a little over half a month. It's trending in the right direction for people who want to buy a home, more available inventory. We're nowhere near the point of a balanced market. Typically, a balanced market, industry standard definitions, is about a 6-month inventory. My forecast, and this is a bold forecast, okay, on this report
right.
here today. My bold forecast is that we're not going to see any significant pressure downward on values until we get over a 2-month supply. That's what I'm saying. Once we get to a 2-month supply, then the pricing may fluctuate a little bit in terms of what's going up, how much it's going up. Clearly, the interest rates dampening some of the demand. I think that'll have more to do on the second home market than primary residences. So if you're concerned about where the market is going as a buyer, is this the wrong time to buy? I think the answer is no, it's the right time to buy. You're going to benefit from having some more choices. And that's what this is telling me.
Yeah, I think the important thing you said there about it's going to affect second homes because there's a little bit more flexibility around the timing. But if you're buying your primary, there's people that have life events that they just can't plan too much around. Like they had a kid and they need more space. They need to get their kids into a better school. Whatever they're trying to do, those things are not going to wait because interest rates went up.
People getting married, the growing family. There's a number of these key life cycle events that drive real estate. And regardless of what the interest rates are, people will be buying and selling homes. Yeah. So generally, this is very good news for the market.
Why do you think 2 months is the point where prices might fluctuate a little bit?
Just based on my experience, having been in markets that really range way over 6 months and the decline in values that result, I just think that psychologically where the market is, as long as we're under 2 months inventory, it's still a scarce product that people are looking to purchase. Once you get over 2 months, 3 months, it starts to feel more like a balance, a lot more choices. It's a softer market. It's definitely trending to a buyer's market, even though it's a seller's market. And that's my prognostication. What I've learned over the many years is sometimes you can be too deep into the numbers and not enough into the feeling, the interpretation of the data. And this is a little more anecdotal based on my experience. I don't have a spreadsheet model that says at 2.75% this is going to happen. I just believe that as long as we're under 2.5 month inventory, that the values will be stable with a slight increase as we get higher. It's just my forecast.
Okay, so the 6 month balanced market, if we got there, then we actually would see some price declines.
I think yes. Once you get to a balanced market, that means it's a seesaw. And half the stuff goes up, half the stuff goes down. We're just trying to give some guidance in terms of people that are making decisions now.
Yeah.
And for buyers, don't be scared. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. 2.5 months inventory is a far cry from half a month inventory.
It's a big difference.
And I don't think that's something we're going to see in the next year.
I don't think so.
Number of sales per month are down 10%. One thing I do want to point out, though, is we're trying to bring you this data right away, first of the month. And agents haven't always entered in their sales, and it hasn't been reflected in these numbers. So if you look at our last video, the February number for this year was about 630. And now you can see the number 730. So there was about 100 closings that had happened but hadn't been entered into the MLS system.
They weren't in the system yet when we ran the data.
So we can expect probably roughly the same for this month.
Right.
So that 850 could be 950, and then it's right in line with last year. So even though we're reporting 10% down in the number of sales, this is probably going to end up flat once we get another 30 days out and we have the opportunity for all of the data to be entered. But we didn't want to wait on that. We wanted to get you numbers immediately so you can have a first look at what's going on in the market.
Yeah, bottom line is it's pretty stable in terms of the number of sales, and that's really being driven by the number of listings, and that story has not changed.
Yeah, and you can see, the reason I like this chart specifically is how you can look back over every year in the past 5, how many years we have here? 5 years, 6th being 2022, and see that it's pretty consistent from year to year, the number of sales in March. The average sales price up 9% from this time last year, which was also roughly what the number was last month. So we're also up around the same from a month ago. And the really astonishing part is when you look at this number in 2020, $550,000, and now we're at $872,000.
It is amazing.
Pretty nuts.
It looks like we've got some stability just in terms of the numbers and what's happening on the average sale price. So about 9% would be the forecast right now.
Number of days to sell down 5.9%. So we had actually looked last month and said, whoa, this thing jumped from 20 to 27. Talked about it, probably just not really meaning all that much. And here we are back to the same range of in the teens of what it was this time last year.
Yeah, clearly the market has come back with a vengeance, and so it is active out there.
number of new listings down as of the end of March, but we showed you how today 143 new listings.
Right.
So a huge jump in new listings. So hopefully we'll see this number continue to trend. For April, 1451 last year. So hopefully this April we see at least that number and maybe more.
Yeah, and just look at the comparison versus last month.
800 last month.
So now we're at 1,265. Huge jump from month to month. And so if you're a home buyer and you were shopping last month and got frustrated, as we opened the video with, things might be a little bit different today, and that should be the trend over the next few months.
Yeah, and you can see that seasonally, January and February have very few listings compared to April, May, June, July, August. So the spring and summer is definitely going to be a little bit more optionality for buyers.
Yeah, it's kind of shaping up to be a really nice buying season with actual properties and listings to purchase.
Let's talk about the inbound tech migration. This just out yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Lee, I'll let you
Big
talk
news.
about it.
So Meta, Facebook's parent company, is investing some significant capital, $800 million up in Temple. The thing that I find fascinating is the path of growth along I-35. And we can see on the image there all the way from Dallas to the north, San Antonio to the south, and then creating a beautiful triangle with Houston to the southeast, Austin generally right in the middle. This is huge for those of you that have a diversified portfolio. I'm not speaking to the owner-occupant real estate buyer. I'm talking about the seasoned real estate investor that's looking to speculate a little bit in the path of development. This is a very strong continuation of the pattern that we've seen. So 900,000 square foot facility, 393 acres. It's going to bring over 1,000 jobs to the area. I mean, it's just absolutely huge. So,
and when you say this pattern continues, 2 months ago, I think it was, we announced the Samsung, which was up in like the Taylor Hutto area, which is somewhere between Austin and where this announcement is.
Yeah, and some of the subsequent slides we're about to get into are right around that Taylor area. So, I mean, it is happening.
Before we get into the continuation of the I-35 developments, let's talk about our backyard. One of my favorite neighborhoods is the East Riverside corridor, where Oracle bought a 2.56 acre piece of property. It has 74 condo units on it, so it bought out each of those individual owners. Roughly $43 million, maybe more, is kind of, it's a speculated price. It's not public. And they own the parcel to the north and south of this, so together that assemblage is 4.13 acres.
And when you start talking assemblage with this type of entity, you're talking about value creation. And so there's some very exciting things that they've got planned.
Yeah. So they've gone for a demo permit. They gave the owners of those condos a free 1-year lease. So we're not going to see anything in there for the next year. But eventually we'll start probably seeing some plans submitted to the city and we'll get an idea of what they're going to do there, whether they're going to do housing for their employees or they're just going to do a phase. I think they already have phase 3 of their Oracle campus, which is just a block to the east. You can see there on the map on the other side of that little creek, or if they're just going to do phase 4 of their offices and continue to add jobs.
Yeah, it's just a great infusion of everything that you could ask for in the downtown area. Oracle's a great partner, and really excited to see this project come to fruition.
The momentum continues.
Correct.
The announcements are going to continue. I think I said this last month. I felt like you hit Tesla. Like, that's it. It's the big dog. No more announcements. But they're just going to keep coming. The momentum here. And that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about recession fears, is the momentum here.
Right. And so on this topic now, we've been highlighting residential developments, homes for people, whether they be apartments or luxury homes and everything in between. But driving that, things like the Tesla factory, things like Oracle headquarters, but the manufacturing side is a really key element that not only underscores what's happening in the Austin community, but really the United States positioning globally is bringing some of the manufacturing back. And there's many benefits to that. And so here we have 5 examples of employment and infrastructure coming to our metro area. The first being in Georgetown, which is 230,000 square feet of industrial space. Those of you that are interested in the details, I mean, this could be a 2 or 3 hour recording here. And so each of these projects has some very interesting facts. We're just going to highlight it. If you do want to drill down, though, let us know. We have all kinds of information we can share, and maybe we'll do some special reports. But I just thought this was a neat collection. So Georgetown, then we've got a $25 million, 110 square foot manufacturing plant in Hutto. Now, you mentioned Taylor earlier with the Samsung. It's just to the east, as you can see on the map there. That corridor from Round Rock to Hutto to Taylor and coming inwards towards 35, that's a great branch of the path of development that I'm particularly excited about. Moving south down to Pflugerville, we've got a 141,000 square foot manufacturing facility. That's tech manufacturing. I'm not exactly sure exactly what they do there, but they are using some advanced technology combined with manufacturing to serve the IT industry. So it's very leading edge stuff that's going on up north. Now we go down south. So now we're down to Buda, $1.3 million federal grant. I think it was last month we were talking about some local resistance to some of the large developments going in the southern portion of our metro area due to the infrastructure, the roads, the sewage, the sanitation, things like that. So the federal government announced a $1.3 million grant that's going to give a big infusion of the infrastructure down south in Buda. And then finally, Kyle, an 80,000 square foot beverage manufacturing facility coming from California. And so this migration, you can see the pattern. It's hard to pick a bad spot for your investment. So just kind of pointing that out.
Yeah, and I think people often come to us like, okay, where in Austin should I invest? Where are you investing, David? And really, I mean, we did a map, I think it was 1 or 2 months ago, showing where all these different companies were located throughout Austin. And you really just can't pick wrong.
Right.
And I think what continues to happen is developers find the little spots where there is a little bit of value and then stuff goes there. So if there's somewhere where there is no development yet, then that might be even a spot where there is extra value to find. So, don't spend too much time analysis paralysis trying to figure out the exact neighborhood. It's based on where the development's going. There's other factors you should be deciding on where to invest.
One of the keys to identifying what area to invest in is what type of property are you looking to acquire. If it's speculative, then this outlying area makes sense. Buy and hold rental homes, also well situated for these outlying areas. Start getting closer into town, a little more complicated. Different types of investments work better than others. So we're just trying to demonstrate that if you have a fear of a recession, there's just too many things going on coming to our metro area for that to be on the foreseeable horizon.
Yeah, I think the other thing that people need to take in mind is a lot of the talking heads, they're talking very general recession nationwide, which is true. And, recession doesn't mean a housing downturn. Those are not the same. A recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, which is not mean a decline in housing prices. Now, there are parts of the country that might be, the housing market could be affected by a recession, could be affected by interest rates going up. Austin is the anomaly in the country, in the world potentially, might be one of the safest markets to invest in because of all the momentum it has, the jobs that are continuing to come here, people continually wanting to move here. The demand in Austin is what I like to call organic. People want to be here. You've heard these stories of going into the 2008 recession and market crash of places like Miami where people were buying condos and never moving into them.
Right.
They just speculating on them. And so when the market crashed and values went, they just let them go.
Right.
It's way different than a place where a lot of people are buying to live. And in fact, most of the new construction developments, the single family home ones at least, they don't allow investors.
Right.
You have to move into it.
Right.
Some of the downtown towers are allowing investors, but they max out around 35%. So that means 65% of the building are people that plan to live there.
Right.
Or at least say they plan to live there.
Right. Yeah, this is real estate after all.
The majority of those people do plan to live there. It's very hard to work around the system in a high-rise condo that you're going to rent the unit without an investor permit.
Yeah. Your point is well taken. Having, worked through all of these different markets, the many cycles that we've had, organic is a good word for the home of Whole Foods, which is Austin. People do want to be here. There is a little bit of speculating going out on the perimeter, but really you're not looking at that sort of a market, that sort of a bubble This is real people moving to town, buying properties, living in the home. So very, very different, very secure, we believe.
Yeah, and to use the word bubble, longtime listener Billy Murphy emailed me yesterday and said, David, you're a math nerd like me. Are we in a bubble here in Austin? And it's really hard to imagine this is a bubble with the amount of demand we're seeing, the lack of supply, and no really foresight on, seeing that the supply is going to change drastically anytime soon. Somebody commented on our last video, and by the way, go ahead, comment, ask questions on these videos. We love it. I go in there and answer all of them. Basically, the conversation started around how do we change the supply, and it really goes back to zoning code. And it's very hard to change the zoning and the building regulations in Austin because of NIMBY. Not in my backyard. Like, once you own in Austin, you have a single family home, you don't want them putting apartment buildings in your neighborhood. So it's very hard to change that and allow for more density. Now, hopefully we get that a little bit without really impacting the people that already own, but it's hard to see that that's going to change anything drastically anytime soon. So
there's a lot of limits on the ability to bring product to the market, and the resistance of longtime residents to new stuff in their neighborhood, absolutely true. The supply chain, limited labor, the increased cost of land, all of these different things are dampening the pipeline of new supply. Austin's in good shape in terms of being a stable market, a stable place to invest.
So let's talk about some of these towers going up. 98 Red River Street, there are several towers going up in the Rainey District. This being one of them, being quite tall, 74 stories, 352 apartments, and a 251 room hotel, 1,000 feet tall. So to put that in perspective, right now the tallest tower in Austin is the Independent. The Austonian's right there with it at around 600 feet tall. What's currently going up is 6th and Guadalupe, 6X, and that will be 875 feet tall. And that's going to be built, probably done this year, height-wise. And then this one's coming up, man, another 200 feet. So we're going in 200 feet increments. So 600 is the tallest now. Later this year, we'll have a over 800 foot tall building. And then in a couple of years, an 1,000 foot tall building. Next, we got the Conrad, as it's named, at 311 East 2nd Street. So this is going to be 65 stories. It's going to have 136 condo units. So these are coming up for sale. So if you're interested, shoot us an email. And we can do our best to get you high up on the list to get in there and have a chance at one of these. But it's going to be a hotel residence, kind of like how the W is. There's also going to be 326 hotel rooms. Another intracore project. So they did 44 East. They're doing One Oak. So this is their third or fourth. There's another one they also have in development that hasn't started selling yet. So they're up to their fourth. They're a big developer out of Vancouver, and they've come in hot, and now 4 developments. And this is a company that has done hundreds of developments and tens of thousands of residential units across the world. And now they're putting their footprint here in Austin with their 4th project in just under 4 years. It's been very quick that they've come in and started doing this.
True seal of approval.
321 West. This is catty corner to 6X Guadalupe. So the tallest tower, and then catty corner it when built this will be the second tallest tower at 58 stories. So just slightly taller than the Independent, which is in I think it's 56 stories tall. This is going to be mostly office space and apartments, and this will be completed in late 2024.
Right.
And then our favorite project.
So this is such an exciting project. 6th and Chicon, 60 micro unit apartment building. Lots of interesting, unique features about it, David. And I know that you've been involved since the beginning with this project. So why don't you share some of the key amenities here?
This is pretty cool. We just broke ground, I guess you could technically say.
Right.
We demoed the existing structure that was there. I was just over at the site a couple of days ago, and they were prepping to put piers. And it's going to be first story is going to be a concrete podium with some parking underneath. We only have 19 parking spots.
Right.
We went the minimum parking we could because really I'm a huge believer in sustainability. We want less people driving, more people biking, walking, scootering is fine too. And at this neighborhood, you do not need a car.
Right.
It is very walkable. The Plaza Saltillo development and metro station is right there, which is one stop to downtown. So you could even just keep walking and head right downtown from there. We went really small in the format because we wanted to make this as affordable as possible for people. The main developer in this project, Nate Vargo, has a huge push for affordability. That is one of his passions. And so smaller footprint meant we could get more people on this site, make it more affordable to people, for people to live at this location. Now, some people will say, well, is $1,500 or $1,800 a month, however much we're going to be charging, is that really even affordable?
Right.
It's definitely more affordable than if we had put 1,000 square foot 2 bedrooms
Sure.
here for somebody to live. And there are 6 of these units have been reserved as actual affordable units, capital A, like you got to apply for them. So there are those units in the building. And then the rest of them are going to be market rate, but more affordable than a comparable studio or 1 bedroom that's a little bit bigger. The average square footage of a unit here is 350 square feet.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of, co-working space, a community kitchen in here. There's a lot of different uses that can be really brought to life with this model. And so we're super excited about it and just getting it on the map right now. You may see some news articles about it. They've been popping up. This is a trend that is really taking hold, the micro unit downsizing of the footprint. So anyway, like I said earlier, we could talk for an extended period of time about any of these projects. This is one that we will be highlighting as we go forward.
Yeah, I think it got a lot of news because of the micro unit,
Right.
which is a relatively new concept to Austin. There are a lot of small format apartments throughout the buildings in East Austin. So we're not the first one to put a 350 square foot unit. There are studios of that size there.
Right.
But we're the first one to do it in the entire building, I would say.
Right.
Kudos to Nate Vargo for being a leader and pushing forward what he believed in affordable units and going with a smaller footprint. And one of the things he did to do this is a concrete and steel constructed
Right.
building. There's no wood in there, so it's not flammable. And the benefit of this, other than the safety reasons, is that generally you're going to need 14 or 16 inches between
Right.
floors if you're doing wood. But because this is steel, we're able to get away with 8 inches between floors. And what that allowed us to do is squeeze an entire extra floor. So if you look at the buildings across the way, they're all 5 stories.
Right.
Now, this building is going to be the exact same height, but it's going to be 6 stories. And that allowed us to get extra units in there. We got a rooftop deck and able to keep the prices down and make the project more affordable than it would have otherwise been for people down the road because there's more units.
And that's to the end user. Obviously, we are developing this property and it's going to be sold to an investor or to the group or the individual purchasing this property. That greater density, the number of floors based on the height, translates to more revenue. And so it's particularly attractive from a financial standpoint as well.
Thanks for joining us on this month's market update. If you got something out of it, please forward it to a friend, like, subscribe, comment below, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any real estate questions.
Thanks, everybody.